The FR-8 Mauser, it's a really unique bolt-action rifle, and it really entered service when semi-automatics were in full swing with most military forces. Of course, the Spanish were implementing the CETME in 308, or 7.62 by 5.1 to be specific, and these were stopgap. They had a ton of 1916 small ring Mausers and 1943 large ring Mausers in stock, and they retrofitted those to 308, and those rifles became the FR-7 and the FR-8 respectively. The FR-8, which was built from the 1943 Mausers, is actually a variation of the K98 or the 98 Mauser. Now, one of the big appeals of this rifle obviously is the caliber, and it's a 7.62 by 5.1, which is 308, but it's the military version, which one thing you need to always consider when you're buying a quote-unquote 308 military rifle. The older rifles are typically built for NATO specs, and the 7.62 by 5.1 is a thicker case wall. A lot of people think that there are higher pressures. It's not necessarily the higher pressures with commercial. It's that the case walls on the 7.62 are thicker. There's going to be a difference in headspace. So you need to have a gunsmith check your headspace if you're going to shoot 308 commercial ammunition in these old rifles. Otherwise, I would not recommend it. The Spanish FR-8 rifle is just a classic rifle. It's really unusual. You're not going to see anything like this in the standard surplus market with the bolt action rifles, and mainly because it's kind of an anomaly. It's something that it was a transitional gun. Even though the Spanish had started making the CETME, this became a stopgap because they couldn't produce the CETMEs fast enough, and so they retrofitted old 1916 and 1943 Mausers. And here is the CETME right next to the FR-8, and you know, I've done a review on this, in fact, just recently. A great rifle. It's really the forefather of the HK91. In fact, the guy that designed the 91 designed this rifle in Spain, and many of the parts interchange. So you have a really modern designed rifle competing with a small bolt action rifle, and you know, they really make a nice little complement. Of course, the FR stands for Fusil Reformado, which means a converted rifle, and of course these were converted from the old Mauser stocks. The first thing you're going to notice and really identifies these FR-8 rifles is the way that the configuration of this barrel with a flash hider, birdcage flash hider, with the aperture sight the way it is, and with this tube, which makes it look like it's a semi-automatic rifle. And because of this little feature, it was affectionately nicknamed the El CETMEton. So it's just like a small CETME. These bird cages are NATO spec, and they're made to fit grenade launchers, NATO grenade launchers. This tube is really just an empty compartment, and it serves as a bayonet lug, but it also, you can put your cleaning supplies in here. So this is really mainly, again, just for looks, but I think it really dresses up this rifle. In fact, the barrels used in these rifles are CETME barrels, and the front sight. Here we see the bayonet fits right into place. Really neat looking bayonet. Here's the release button right here. And this bayonet is actually the CETME bayonet. So it fits on the standard CETME rifle, but then of course it will transition over to the FR-8. It's got a really unique blade shape. A little bit of a curve here. And of course you have a standard scabbard. Of course on the CETME it goes toward the top, like this. Of course, to be imported into the country, they had to fit this with a commercial US-made muzzle brake, and they removed the bayonet lug. You can have that replaced if you're really just dying to have a bayonet on your CETME. The rear aperture sight is really neat, I think very unique for these type rifles. It does have an open sight here for 100 meters, and then you go to 200 meters with the rotary, and then 300 and 400 meters. And of course it coincides here with the front sight. There is a sight tool that fits in the top of the sight through this hole to be able to adjust for elevation. The bolt itself is pretty smooth, rides out of the bolt really nicely. To remove the bolt, there's a lock bar here. You pull it out and then just remove the bolt. Makes it really easy to clean, especially since you should be cleaning from the chamber end out. And to replace the bolt, just pull it and slide it right in. It will hang on the magazine. There we go. It does feature a 5-round integral magazine, of course, with the standard base plate. Safety right here, it just locks your firing pin down. Then you have your Spanish crest built in right here, and this rifle in particular was made in 1956. Here we have the FR-8 and then the serial number, so that really identifies this rifle particularly. Okay, the caliber is identified right here on the ring, 7.62. The FR-7 and FR-8 were used with the Spanish military from the 1950s through the 1970s. It's kind of vague, actually. There are even some accounts that these were used up into the 80s. But most of these were actually made for the civilian guard, police force, the Spanish Auxiliary Corps of Engineers, communications, and drivers of vehicles. It was mainly a rear echelon type rifle to fill in the gap for the full-on CETME. The FR-8's only about 38 inches in length. The barrel length on this is about 17.5 inches. I've seen some reports where they say it's 19 inches, but I measured it, and it's at 17.5 inches. So it's a really compact little carbine rifle. It weighs 8.2 pounds, so it's not super heavy, especially with a full wood stock and with all the metal. It does have a steel butt pad. Your sling attachment is right here at the bottom of the stock. And this little ring here around the front sight is a quick detach mount for your sling. Now the Mauser action is one of the strongest in the world. And so this made a perfect candidate for these type rifles. I've actually seen conversions of these rifles where they've been made to accept CETME magazines, which is a kind of a cool looking design with a bolt action rifle with a 20-round magazine. And obviously Ruger's capitalized on the idea of a .308 bolt action rifle with a detachable magazine, with a short rifle. Now Jeff Cooper was really big about scout rifles back in the 70s, taking a short little carbine rifle in .308 and putting a long eye relief scope out at the front to be able to get really quick shots. It really makes it a handy rifle. In fact, I have a Yugoslavian 8mm Mauser that is in the Scout configuration, and it's quick, it's fast. I love that rifle. I would highly not recommend that you do any kind of sporterizing to this rifle or customizing. It's going to really increase in value as the years go by, and I would definitely keep this in its original military condition. The FR-8 Mauser has been around in the surplus market in quantity since the 90s. These rifles were around the $125 range, if I remember correctly. I had one for a number of years. Sold it, and now they're going for $400-500 if you can find them. This would make an excellent addition to any collection. And I'll tell you guys, as I've said before, these are going to continue to go up in value. Be strong. Be of good courage. God bless America. Long live the Republic. And if you don't like my Spanish, then suck on it. These are great classic little rifles, and I think if you found one at a reasonable price, you would be in hog heaven.